Okay, good evening, guys. Good evening. Welcome to this latest episode of the FPL Family. This is episode number 38. My name is Lee. This is Sam. I felt like I haven't said that for a while. Just as I was coming on, I felt like I haven't said I'm Lee. This is Sam.
Could you use my full name, please?
Sam from FPL Family.
Thank you.
I watched the last live stream back, and I called you Sam from FPL Family quite a lot, didn't I? And I have no idea why. It's quite formal, wasn't it?
I feel like that is now my name, though.
Yeah, I was on. I don't know what I was on last live stream. I think I'd had no sleep.
That is exactly what was the problem.
Yeah, I was a bit hyper.
Funny.
I was a bit hyper, and actually, I think it came across quite well. The live chat was like, "Lee's hyper. This is a good stream." So I don't know if I'm feeling a little bit more subdued.
I wonder if I should maybe every night before we stream, if I should keep you awake, set an alarm on your phone every 2 hours, just so that you're tired when you come on, because it seems to be quite positive for you.
Well, no, so I do feel a bit flustered given the last hour and a half. I mean, we've had the neighbours round, the police have been round, we've been running around like nutters, haven't we? To be fair, because you screaming the bloody street down. Oh my God, guys! When that goal went in, when the Harry Winks goal goes in, I've never. Our little 5-year-old, and I put a tweet out there to say our kids have just pooed themselves because you scream their house down out of nowhere. Spurs get the goal. I mean, what are Fulham doing there? It was an apologetic run out to George Nkudu. The defender was just like, all right, if you want to cross it, it's George Nkudu or whatever his name is, so it's not going to go anywhere, is it? And then Brian at the back post completely loses Winks, and Winks, the smallest guy on the pitch, wins it in the 94th minute with a header. Well, you've gone absolutely bonkers, haven't you?
Yeah,
absolutely bonkers.
Our little girl went with it because I picked her up, so she had literally no choice. She just happened to be standing right next to me at the time. I launched off up the sofa, screaming my head off, and just grabbed her and threw her about. And she thought it was funny. Our little boy, on the other hand, who was just coming in the room to talk to me,
didn't like it.
Did not see the funny side of it.
No, didn't like it.
And yeah, I upset him quite a lot. It took me a little while to persuade him that everything was actually fine.
But needless to say, that means you are in a good mood tonight. A good mood. It could have been a very different mood.
Well, it was nearly a very different mood.
It was nearly a bad mood, but you're in a good mood.
I mean, the strop that went on early on, because, right, for a start, let's not even mention the L word, because that man,
we had a bad game, didn't we, Lorente?
Bad game.
Oh, I put the own goal to one side.
Took out my clean sheet from my keeper by being an beep. And then not only that, what was he even doing?
Are you about to go on another one of your famous Aubameyang rants?
No, because he's not even worth it.
Oh my goodness. Well, he had a bad game. He had a bad game.
All I can say to Pochettino, if you're watching us, for goodness sake.
Because of course he would be.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Play the kid. Sterling is decent. Send Lorente off. Just banish him.
So you'd play a kid that's in his teenage years, that's never kicked a ball in the Premier League before, over a guy that's got winners' medals, experience, he's played at the top level.
What did you see him do today that would justify him playing in any other game in the future?
I'm just winding you up.
What did he do today that would justify any game in the future, him getting any minutes?
So Lorente bad. Dele Alli looked bad. Have we heard anything since post-match? Because obviously if you guys didn't see the game, looks like he pulled a hamstring in that game. So that's normally a few weeks, right?
God, let's hope not. Let's see. I mean, he didn't ice it. He didn't go down the tunnel. He sat on the bench. I mean, he did look very upset sat on the bench, but there was no treatment while he was sat on the bench.
Yeah.
So I don't really know.
Yeah. A couple of important games coming up as well. Cup semi-final.
Thursday's really important.
Yes. That, and then it's FA Cup next weekend, isn't it? And then the fixtures start again in the Premier League, so it's all go.
Yeah, we got Watford, so gonna have to have more than 43 seconds on Watford that week.
No, we can still have 42 seconds on Watford. Just spend more time talking about Spurs.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And what a game week! And guys, thank you for joining us as ever. We've rambled. We
always do.
But thank you for joining us. This is episode 38 of the FPL Family. This is our Game Week 23 review video. It's our reaction. All the weekend's actions just finished. What do we watch today? We watched Huddersfield versus City. Weird game where first half City were really not at it at all, and I think you could see Pep visibly on the bench sitting sitting there thinking, this is bad. We look lacklustre. It's just easy for me to say. And they came out all guns blazing in the second half, and they did the job, didn't they? Got it done. And then we watched the Spurs game. Again, weird game. I felt it was like a weird game week, actually. I'm just looking at the top BPS performers for this game week, and the top 6 or 7 reads like this: Diogo Jota, Shah, Danilo, Kiko Femenia, Koscielny, Lascelles, then it's Salah, then it's Socrates, Lacazette, Bellerin. These are names we don't talk about. These are names that are not in the FPL Twitter community. These are not names we talk about on these live streams. It's a funny old game week. Salah apart, that is a top 10 of misfits, isn't it, from an FPL perspective?
Well, that is, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very odd.
There's very few in there that you would even consider having in your fantasy team.
Well, I think a lot of people are now considering Diogo Jota, and we're going to talk about him a bit later when we talk about that random game, Wolves versus Leicester, where defences clearly seem to be at a premium. But before we do that, and before we launch into the games, let's say hello to a few people, and I need to switch my... switch my windows here. Here we go. Right, let's say hello.
Can't say that either.
I've got to put my teeth in tonight. I don't know what's going on.
Can't
I don't know
speak.
what's in this tea. Very, very odd.
It's what's happened in that Spurs game. It's me shouting. It's done something to your hearing. It's throwing you off.
Blown my mind and brain. Yes, absolutely. Josh Telling is here. How are you doing? He's just put Lorente with a winky smiley.
Josh.
We're not talking about that anymore. We're not talking about that.
He's only saying that to wind me up because he knows how much I dislike the man.
Okay, all right. Steve Wynyard is in and super chatting as ever. Steve, thank you for joining us. On Ali, he says, Poch said post-match that it does not look good. Yeah, I think I saw Poch's comments and it was classic Poch, actually. And to be honest, you wouldn't expect him to say anything else. He kind of said, we need to assess it over the next couple of days and blah, blah, blah. But we know historically that hamstring, and I haven't looked at it in any detail, guys, forgive me. I don't know whether it's that same hamstring that's been giving him jip. Yeah, I think it is. So it's the hamstring that he's got a bit of history with that's been causing him an issue. I'm not feeling good about it.
There wasn't any ice.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I don't know. He just, the way that he looked, you know when a player, if he's got his head in his hands, he's sitting on the bench looking like this, it just didn't feel good.
We weren't winning, I don't know.
Well, all right,
Let's see.
Listen.
Let's wait.
Listen, a couple of you guys are saying somebody else did a super chat as well, so I'm going to scroll up past Steve and see if I've missed somebody.
There was one.
Here we are, FPL Booner. Good evening. How are you doing? He says, let's get started. Come on, you Spurs, he says. Winky Esther. Whatever. You can't...
Harry Winks.
Don't start calling him a player, because it's the first goal he scored in his life, isn't it? I mean, since, 2016 or something?
Right, okay. Is his job to score goals? No. But there is a Harry in the team, and if there's a Harry in the team, who's going to score the goal?
All right, okay, fair enough. All right, well,
Harry
FPL
Kane.
Booner, welcome.
Harry Kane and Harry Winks, they're my favourites now.
I assume a very big Spurs fan. James Taban is here. How are you doing, James? Alex Summerson is in. FPL Stagite is here. How are you doing? Supersport Gaming is here. Rushil is here as ever. Thank you very much for joining us, Rushil. Andrew Yee, 71 points this week, up to 80k. Very, very good, Andrew. I think anything that starts with a 7 this week, very, very good. Anything that starts with an 8, excellent. Anybody in the 90s, guys, give us a shout out in the live stream. I've seen a couple of 90s knocking about on Twitter. What I will say is I feel like there's a bit of a template forming, isn't there? I didn't get too excited when Pogba and Rashford scored for Manchester United. Obviously, getting points for my team, so I'm happy about that. But just felt like everyone's got them now. So I'm thinking, I'm still where I am with overall rank. I'm still up, we'll discuss it later on in terms of I've taken a nice chunk out of my OR, but I'm still over 100k. So I'm thinking, can I claw back into that 100k? And it's tough, isn't it? It's tough because my differentials are not doing it right now. Richarlison not doing it. Martial not doing it.
Why have you stuck with Richarlison for this long?
Oh, the guy is just unbelievable. He's unbelievable. FPL Stagite, who we mentioned before, 102 points. Took a 12-point hit. But still,
but even
102 points. Very, very good indeed.
90 points.
That is awesome, isn't it?
Amazing.
Vinyl Rich is here. How are you doing? Byri's here. Byrie Beckford.
Wooden Spoon fame.
Have you sent the wooden spoon out?
No, I haven't done yet, but I have got his address now.
Excellent.
I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow.
Very good. All right, Byrie, you can look forward to getting that in the post in the not too distant future. Super chat coming in from Toxic Fusion. How are you doing, Toxic? Good evening. West Ham lost 2-0 and they're still going to win the league, he says. Toxic Fusion, who super chatted us on the last live stream saying that West Ham are going to win the league, still got a lot of faith in the Hammers. A lot of faith. Misplaced, I think.
I wonder whether there's something better that you could say that West Ham might win.
Some of you guys, we've got, is it Liam that's bigging up Gabbiadini? We've got Toxic saying West Ham are going to win the league. I feel like the knowledge we're imparting is not really getting through, dear. I feel like we're just turning them a little bit insane.
Well, either that, or we are We are a nice place for anybody that thinks outside the box.
That's what it is. It's thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Jatin Gidwani is here. How are you doing? Good evening. 92.
Excellent
Goodness
score.
me. 1992.
Very, very good.
Klacko is here. How are you doing, Klacko? Fahim is here. He says, Sam, who do you support? So Fahim must be relatively new to these live streams. Fahim, welcome if it's your first live stream. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like what we do. Spurs.
Welcome to the Spurs goggles.
Spurs, very much a Spurs team, and it's rare actually that you're not in Spurs attire.
Well, the thing is that it's more difficult at the weekend because we've been so busy with various things that we've been going to that, and I haven't always had my shirt on, and I don't always have time to get changed after put the kids to bed. Whereas on our Thursday, it's retro Spurs night, isn't it? So...
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Say hello to a few other people, then we'll get cracking. Steve Stanfield is here. Luke Walkinshaw is here. At LX_designs on Twitter. Luke, as ever, thank you for your help with everything you do for FPL Family. Doing all that graphics and all that stuff. Doing all that Ohana podcast stuff for our Patreons. So, Luke, thank you very much for your support. Get over onto Twitter and support Luke over there with what he does. Karam is here as ever. How you doing, Karam? Joe Ian Barrett. Chris, Deeraj, all of you guys are in. All of the usuals.
I haven't heard you say hello to any
I think Mr. Finley Badder is here. I've seen him. He's saying that it's the first Watford game he missed in ages, but he's all right with that because it was 0-0.
Joe, are you going? Spurs Watford. I'm going.
Are you going?
I'm going.
Oh, there we go. You can give Joe a little high five from across the stands. There we go.
We could have a little high five outside.
There you go. Very, very good. FPL Chancellor Dan is here. 81 points, Dan. Very, very good indeed. Very good indeed. All right, let's get on with the show. There is our Twitter handle on the left-hand side, our Twitter page, at FPL Family. We are at FPL Family on Instagram as well, and you can search FPL Family on Facebook, and you'll find us on there too. Where do you want to start? Where should we start? There's a brief
Last
insight
time you
into.
asked me this, what happened?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Watford game.
Yeah, we're not going to Watford.
Although I picked Watford because I wanted to shout out to Hollybass, and he did get a clean sheet.
Did all right. There was a few people picking good jammy picks as well this week. There was a few people picking Jota as well.
Dele got a clean sheet. Dele got a goal.
Dele did all right as well, didn't he? But where do you want to start? I think we ought to start with Wolves 4, Leicester 3, right back on Saturday lunchtime. What a random game. Really, really random game. The first thing that happened at random was that Doherty was benched for the first time this season, which was disconcerting to say the least. As a Doherty owner, I was looking forward to him playing in that game. And given that Wolves ended up with 4 goals against that Leicester defence, which I think we all expected Wolves to do all right against that Leicester defence. We therefore expected maybe Doherty to get forward and into good positions. Okay, Sarah, there it is. He didn't play. So, thoughts on Wolves going forward? Jimenez got an assist, so only 1 assist out of 4 potential goal involvements. So, and then, of course, Diogo Jota up there with a hat-trick. A lot of pre-season hype about this guy. Finally decides to come to the party after his return from injury. Thoughts in general about Wolves? What do you make of the game?
Well, Jota is a bandwagon incoming, isn't it? You can already feel that that's going to brew. And I feel like that's a little bit premature, to be honest. I mean, he's done virtually nothing for 22 weeks. In 23rd week, he does all right. It's not just something. He got a hat-trick and was pretty excellent. But for me, I'm still not sure that I would risk, because you'd have to lose Jimenez probably to go to Jota, I think.
Do you double up on Wolves? Both, it's very difficult to do that, isn't it? Although the Wolves fixtures do look sensational going forward. A quick shout out to the Wolves fixtures. Let's look at those. West Ham at home, Everton away, Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away, Huddersfield away. It doesn't get too much better than that, to be honest. So if you want to double up on Wolves, maybe.
But the thing is that there's so much competition in those midfield spaces, and we're talking about the midfielders all the time at the moment, perhaps more than we're even talking about the strikers. With the likes of Pogba and Hazard and all of them. There's just so much talk, isn't there, about how you afford them. So to have a space and give it to Jota, I think you've got to be fairly confident that what he did on Saturday wasn't just a one-off kind of, like, can he repeat it again and again? And I think with Jimenez, he's proved over the course of this season that he can produce scores game week. Yeah. Whereas with Jota, I'm yet to be convinced that he's worth a spot, because I'm yet to see him do something regularly.
Yeah, there's a couple of nice points in the live chat as well. I noticed that Vinyl Richie is saying, with so many people looking to get off of Richarlison and Anderson and people like that, then it kind of feels like a bandwagon is inevitable for Jota, because there's, people are desperate to get off of Richarlison and Anderson. I'm very, very keen to get off of Richarlison, and you've got Anderson, and I think you're losing patience with him too. So Jota feels like he's a bit of a convenient pick, but I'm with you. I don't know if I want to double up with Jimenez. Well, I'm pretty sure I don't want to double up with Jimenez.
Because I'd be trebled up with Doherty as well.
Yeah, treble Wolves just doesn't feel right, does it? I know those fixtures are good. The one thing I will say is that, of course, we've now got 10 days between now and the next time we have a game. So game week 24 is not next weekend. We have an FA Cup fourth round. Of course, Wolves are in that, having beaten Liverpool, as we know. So actually, we get an opportunity to see what Wolves are going to be like and how they're going to set up. Now, they're going to play, I think, lower league opposition. I actually don't know who they've got in the round.
You don't care.
I lost all interest in the cup already. But I'm guessing Wolves have got maybe not another Premier League team, so maybe they mix it up a bit. But here's an opportunity to see whether Jota, who I guess coming back from injury, Nuno Espirito Santo might want to give him that game. Well, he probably will want to give him that game to give him a bit more match time. He's going to want him to keep a bit of momentum, I think, after that hat-trick as well. So let's see how he performs in the FA Cup. And if we get a bit of consistency there, then maybe ahead of those run of fixtures that we've just pointed out on the Fantasy Football Scout website there, maybe he's worth a look. And you guys, Everton Wright is saying it's Shrewsbury versus Wolves. So I don't anticipate Shrewsbury being too difficult for Wolves. Maybe they won't need their first 11, but let's see. He's probably going to play Jota if he performs. Have a look, I think.
My glasses are filthy, I'm sorry. But I mean, to be quite honest, I was not expecting 4-3 in that game. Like, no. It's tough, isn't it? Because I just don't fancy any of the Leicester players at all.
Do you think they're going through a bit of a crisis right now? Can we call it a crisis, or is it getting there?
It's getting there, I think. I think the thing is with Leicester is that they've had such a off the football pitch. It's been such a difficult and hard season since the accident.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that Leicester as a club, have kind of they've gone on and they're doing what they can, but it's got to have an impact that. And on the pitch, I don't see the Leicester that we were seeing even last season. They're not as consistent as they were before. They're not scoring as many. Well, I know they scored 3 this game week, but in general, they're not scoring as many goals.
Defensively, they don't look great at all. They don't look great at all. And actually, the fixtures for them don't get any better in the short term. It's Liverpool away next, so here we go again. Captain Salah for game week 24, I suspect. Then they host Manchester United, which is obviously a very difficult game the way that they're playing. Then they go to Wembley to play Spurs. So it's Liverpool, United, Spurs next, before they play Palace and Brighton back-to-back at home. So
it does go nice after that Spurs game. I think they have a little blue run.
You don't touch them with a barge pole, do you? Until at least 27, right?
No, not at least for 3 weeks. I don't know. I don't fancy any of the Leicester assets. I keep looking at them and thinking, well, maybe for 27, I'm sort of on a scout. Because the fixtures do turn.
And they're guaranteed not to blank, according to Ben Crellin on Twitter. So if you guys haven't followed yet, at Ben Crellin on Twitter, go do that, because you can start scoping out where the double game weeks, where the blanks are going to be. He does all the hard work for you, all the heavy lifting. So go follow at Ben Crellin on Twitter. And his algorithms is working out says, and I'm not going to pretend I understand it fully, but it says that Leicester don't blank. They can't blank.
Like
so if you want to get somebody ahead of that game week 27, then have a look at that. I have noticed that FPL Chancellor Dan is in, and he has said that actually he reckons Puel might get sacked ahead of that game week 27. 3 games to go with Liverpool, Man United, Spurs. I'm going to go out there and say that Leicester get 0 points out of the next 3.
But the thing is I said to you, didn't I? I don't remember if it was on the stream or if it was privately, when we were talking about Huddersfield, and I was saying, there's never a good time to sack your manager, but to sack them before a game where you're not expected to get anything is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because whoever takes over can't, they're never going to get anything, so it's never going to be a good start. And you look at those 3 fixtures coming up for Leicester, and you do, I look at them and think you could see him getting going before those fixtures turn, because then the manager's coming in, it's got a fresh, clean start in games that they'll win. Should win.
Yeah. All right, well, listen, I don't think we're investing in Leicester anytime soon. Wolves, yes, absolutely invest, but I think some of us are already. So the question is, do you treble with Jota or go double if you've got somebody already? I mean,
wait and see.
Let's see how Jota performs in that cup game against Shrewsbury and take it from there, I think. Let's go to Anfield next then. Liverpool 4, Crystal Palace 3. I was trying to rack my brains as to a time when Liverpool last conceded 3 goals at home. And actually, Liverpool have conceded only 3 goals at home all season before that Palace game, and now suddenly 3 in 90 minutes. So I struggled to understand how we let in those 3 goals, but I don't actually. It was Wilfried Zaha was the catalyst, right? They gave the ball as quickly as they could to him on the break. He turned Milner inside out. That's one of the reasons Milner got sent off that game, was because he was given a torrid time by Wilfried Zaha in that game. And actually players like Townsend played very, very well. Max Meyer did all right when he came on. But Zaha in particular was devastating down that side. And actually it was Milner and Matip on that side of the defence, I think. So they exploited that. To great effect, actually, Palace. So Palace, fair play to them. Went to Anfield, got 3, gave us a hell of a scare. And that first goal...
You were stressed.
I was stressed, no doubt about it. I was very stressed. And Julian Bennett is quite rightly saying Palace were good. Don't forget they beat City at the Etihad. So yeah, absolutely. And even then, I remember the Townsend goal in that game being a complete worldie, wasn't it? It was an absolute worldie. But from a Liverpool perspective, do we now? And I've said a couple of times on these streams, Salah absolutely a brilliant pick. And you need to have him, but I don't know if I put him in the essential bracket. I think we now put him in the essential bracket, don't we?
He's been essential for weeks, Lee.
I think so. But in the game weeks leading up to this, there'd been a couple of weeks where he hadn't scored from open play, scored a couple of penalties. Now, we'll take the FPL points however they come. I understand that. But now he's back and firing on all cylinders, it looks like. And all right, maybe a bit of luck with his goals. I don't know. I mean, the first one I happen to think was actually a pretty good finish when he kind of toe poked it in. The second goal was Speroni completely fluffed his lines and patted it back. But what I will say about that goal, what I particularly liked about the Salah's second goal, was that he obviously got a bit of stick for not following in that ball against City, didn't he? When we could have
followed it all the way
on the John Stones and Edison muck up. He didn't go in with quite so much gusto. Well, in his second goal against Palace, he flew into the net. He absolutely rammed it home, didn't he? And by a couple of inches, because the ball wasn't quite over the line for a Speroni own goal, he got the 2 goals. So Salah, I think, now absolutely essential. I don't think I want to talk too much more about him. Give me your feelings on the game, in particular, your transfer in this game week, which, I don't know how you do it. This is like FPL witchcraft. Your transfer in every week seems to come off. You bring in Firmino this week. He gets the goal. What else do you want to say about that game? What did you make of the Liverpool performance?
I was a little bit annoyed.
Annoyed?
At losing the Robbo clean sheet at first.
Right. He pops up with an assist there, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So at first I was like, for goodness sake, like, what is going on with my defence? I've got Digne on -1. I've got... Who else did I have playing? Who got 1? And then I was like, and now I'm going to have Robbo on 1 or 2. And it was really irritating. And then actually he saved himself by getting an assist. But yeah, I mean, those 3... I'm trebled Liverpool, as we all know now. Salah, Firmino and Robbo, and actually I think I'll be trebled for Liverpool till the end now.
Yeah.
Like, I just
barring injuries, right? But
barring injuries. Yeah. But I look at Firmino, and I've said it time and time again since Christmas, really, since just before Christmas I started spouting on about him. And I don't want to kind of keep spurting on the same things, but he is that kind of player that come Christmas when he seems to just get into the swing of things at that sort of time of year. And then he just goes with it, and he's been so much better over those last few weeks. And he didn't at the beginning, just after Christmas, he wasn't necessarily doing anything, but he looked better, and you could see that it was building. And then obviously there was the Arsenal game where he was unbelievable.
He's definitely getting more touches in the box, isn't he? He was 4th for BPS amongst forwards for this game week after Lacazette, Wilson, Rashford, and then Firmino. So he's definitely doing all the right things. He's picked up 2 bonus points. He's doing all the right things to pick up bonus points. So he's not like a Salah where, Salah might get a goal or 2 and he misses a bunch of chances and doesn't get bonus points. Although, I will say, that trend seems to be reversing over the last couple of weeks. Seems to be picking up the baps, doesn't he? But Firmino, even if he just gets the 1 goal, he's a bit like Hazard. He does a lot of other good stuff.
Yeah. So
he tends to pick up bonuses if he does score. So a good pick.
I just think, for me, and I said it last week, it felt, because I had Rashford anyway, it felt like a no-brainer to have Firmino, because I've been talking about him. I'd done the research for weeks before and I'd been watching him, so it felt like the right thing to do. And yeah, I mean, I always say you just have to kind of follow your gut on these things, don't you? Because it would have been very easy to go Aguero or Aubameyang instead on the basis of, the fixtures.
Yeah, and the fixtures for Liverpool look pretty good going forward. So I think Leicester at home next, which looks like a real plum tie for Liverpool. Away at West Ham, home to Bournemouth. Away at Man U, which is, that could be it is a huge game now. And then home to Watford. So the fixtures look pretty good. If you're doubled or trebled on Liverpool, I wouldn't worry too much. As you guys know, in the last live stream, I bought in Trent. He then got injured for 4 weeks, and then in the Klopp press conference on Friday, apparently it's not 4 weeks. He's back. He was in contention for the weekend. So a lot of to-ing and fro-ing with Trent. So I'm sticking for now. I didn't do what I thought I was going to do, which was bring him in. He's out for 4 weeks. Take him out. No, he's not. And I just thought hokey cokey, and it could have got very messy. That a lot of people did do that. Based on the reports that were in the media. It was awful. But I think for now, Trent, I think, is a hold. We've got 10 days now between now and the next game. Liverpool don't play in the FA Cup clearly, so. Between now and the Leicester home game, which I think is on Tuesday or Wednesday week.
It's Wednesday, it's on the TV.
Wednesday week, so I've actually got a long time now between now and when Liverpool next plays. I'm expecting Trent and indeed Gomez to be back for that Leicester game, which should tighten us up at the back. Should tighten us up. So there we go, that's Liverpool versus Palace. Where to next? Let's talk about Southampton versus Everton, actually. So again, I must admit, I put quite a few chips on Everton. I played Richarlison, I played Digne this week. Mainly because I felt like the Saints had played a really tough game in the FA Cup. They played a cup replay a few days before, and they played 120 minutes. Who was it? Derby? Was it Derby Cup? I can't remember now. But they played a cup replay. It went for extra time, penalties. The team they played was, not full strength, but it was more or less getting there, wasn't it? Pretty much full strength.
I watched it, yeah.
So given that they were, they played that game, I thought, well, going into that home game against Everton are going to surely be a bit fresher, and Southampton might be a bit knackered. Nothing could be further from the truth, and I'm starting to think that Hasenhüttl's got something here. The Saints, we're going to start talking about them from an FPL perspective all of a sudden. I don't feel like we've done that much this season. But I tweeted about James Ward-Prowse's. I think he had a great game. James
here we go.
And I know he got 2 in 2, so, here we go. Lee's chasing points. I get that, but I looked at what the guys on Match of the Day were saying. They were talking about he's got this slightly freer role potentially under Hasenhüttl. Maybe Hasenhüttl's going to play him in a slightly different way to previous managers.
Okay.
We know that he takes the odd free kick as well. And if you talk to the Saints fans on Twitter, he's one of their best set piece takers from what those guys say.
Okay.
So at 5.0, I think he's owned by 0.3% TSB. So this guy's proper differential.
It's a jammy pick for you.
And enabler. Yeah, he's a proper jammy pick. So, and we know from the tickers out there that the Saints fixtures are absolutely top of the shops when it comes to fixtures. Palace at home, Burnley away, Cardiff at home, Arsenal away, which is clearly very difficult, but you can score against Arsenal, and then Fulham at home. So the fixtures look incredible for Southampton. So James Ward-Prowse absolutely on my radar. Danny Ings as well looked pretty good in that game had a few different opportunities.
You can't go back.
I know. I'm probably not going to go back there. But the one to look out for, I think, at 5.253 is Redmond, actually. Redmond. Now, I know he didn't get much in the way of FPL points, and I think he got a booking, right? So actually not going to be on too many people's radars after this game week. But he is getting forward a hell of a lot. Plays in that side up there with Ings, alongside Ings. So thoughts on Southampton in general?
In all honesty, there's only really Bednarak that I've been looking at.
Forgot Bednarak, absolutely, yeah.
But I've been looking at Bednarak on the basis that he is super cheap. And, that enables you to play around a little bit with your midfield. And Southampton are looking better. They look more solid defensively. So for me, it's kind of one of those, well, I can have Bednarak, can't I? And if I don't want to play him against Arsenal,
you can bench him. It's no problem.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Just stick him on the bench with Wan-Bissaka.
I think he was on for 3 bonus points at some stage in that game.
I think he was on for all 9 points until Everton scores. I think for me, he's one to look out for. It's tough though, isn't it? Because I totally agree with what you were saying about Southampton. I think it's coming to a point with that run of fixtures that they now have, where you do sort of want to start looking at having a Southampton player in your team. But I think it is a Southampton player in your team. I don't think you want to go with multiple Southampton players in your team. Yet.
I think you're possibly right, but you go back to the conversation we had a few minutes ago, which says, there's a template forming here. How do we, I mean, you probably wouldn't given your overall rank, but given where I am and I'm looking to do something a bit different, taking a 5.0 punt on a James Ward-Prowse or, I don't know, a 5.2 on Redmond or something, that's a worthy punt, is it not?
Absolutely, but do you want to take a punt on one of them and then have a Southampton defender as well? That's my question.
Well, no, probably not, because the Saints' defence looks like it can still concede a goal or two,
right. So for me, I think, well, yes, I totally agree that Southampton fixtures are good, very good. Southampton are playing better, and the manager does seem to have got it together with them. The players seem to be playing much more as a unit together. It seems a bit more kind of solid down there. But I just don't feel like I want more than one Southampton player. So if I'm thinking about Bednarak, then I don't want a midfielder as well.
Okay.
So I was just working out which way you go. Do we go with the cheap Southampton defender on the basis that he's always going to play and it doesn't matter if you bench him? Or do you take up one of your midfield spots instead? And it depends on how your strategy goes, doesn't it? Because a lot of people are playing with 5 massive midfielders and then very cheap up top. At the moment, I'm not doing that. I've got a couple of cheap midfielder spots, and certainly Torreira's one is up for grabs at the moment. So
yes, we'll talk about what you're doing with him later on. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, so James Ward-Prowse, 32 BPS in the game week, the same as Leroy Sané, just 2 behind Sterling. And only 3 behind Harry Winks, of all players. Winkiniesta, or whatever we called him earlier. Let's hear what you guys are saying about the Saints in the live chat. It feels like we've not... Yeah, I feel like we haven't spoken about the Saints for a while, actually. But all of a sudden, the Hasenhüttl effect is kicking in. The fixtures look good. And all of a sudden, there's a few decent enabler options in there. Andy Golf Pro, thank you for joining, Andy. James Ward-Prowse looks interesting if you want to save some money on Richarlison. Yeah, absolutely right.
For sure he does.
You can save $1.5 million there, mate. And actually, wouldn't feel like too much of a downgrade, would it, right now with Richarlison? Ben Gale, thank you for joining, Ben. He's called Ward-Prowse and Redmond as his jammy picks this week. Nice, like it. Good shout. Good shout. Steve Stanfield, Southampton and Palace assets interest me going forward. Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely. Steve Wynyard is saying Armstrong, maybe. Armstrong, yeah, not one that got very many FPL points this weekend, but he's got a couple of goals recently. Steve is saying Redmond seems potentially a bit trollish. Could be. He's one of those players that may be a bit hit and miss, but at 5.2, 5.3, don't mind if he has the odd blank, do you? You don't mind if he has the odd blank.
But you're going to compare him to the likes of Fraser, I guess, aren't you?
Yes, you probably are. David Brooks, right, at that sort of price. Yeah, I think you are. And Everton, for their part, the Digne own goal is pretty unlucky, isn't it? It's pretty unlucky.
I don't like him anymore.
I just feel like with Digne, you're never just going to get a 6.
No.
You're either going to get an own goal and a red card, or you're going to get 2 goals. It just doesn't feel like... I take a 6. Do you know what I mean? It just feels like one or the other. I don't know with him. I think you've got to keep him. The Everton fixtures
are too good to not
pretty
have him.
good. Huddersfield next, Wolves, Watford, City and Cardiff. So 4 of the next 5 look really good for the Toffees. And it was on that basis, excuse me, that most of us invested in Digne. It's on that basis that it's going to be hard for me to get rid of Richarlison. And I know what you're going to say.
I'm not saying anything.
Listen, other fires to put out. Digne, -1 in the game week, I think.
Yes.
Pretty shocking. I don't know what's up. And I asked you this question when we were watching the highlights on Match of the Day. Guys, if you know what's up with Yerry Mina, let us know. Because Everton need him back desperately. Kurt Zouma. I know Kurt Zouma got an assist, but... Southampton were made to look like Barcelona because they were Højbjerg was picking passes through that back line like Iniesta. It's unreal.
The Saints fans are going to be loving that you've just compared Southampton to Barcelona.
Well, it's less to do with Saints fans, more to do with the way that Everton were defending. Zouma, rather than turning on a sixpence, he turns like the Titanic, doesn't he? He sort of gets his head round and it takes him 3 hours to get round. So the ball's going in behind, which Ings and Redmond were getting on the end of. Zouma was nowhere near them, absolutely nowhere near them. So I think they need Mina in there, pretty sharpish. And I don't think Keane is having the breakout season that I thought he might have either. Actually, Michael Keane, I don't fancy him right now. But Dean, I think I've got to stick with Luca Dean. Kind of made my bed by getting him. Some weeks he's good, some weeks he's bad. Just accept it.
But it's
on the
Huddersfield
fixtures
next,
look
right?
all right. It's Huddersfield next, so just go with it. That's Southampton 2, Everton 1. Arsenal 2, Chelsea 0. So the London derby on Saturday night. A very, very good and a very professional performance by the Gunners. What did you make of that game?
Had to, didn't they?
They needed that win, and by goodness me, didn't they just get it?
I think, yeah, it was absolutely essential if they wanted any chance of making the top 4 that Arsenal won that game. And I think, let's start with Chelsea.
Oh, Vinyl Richie's saying, can we just skip this one? Do we have to? Josh is saying Chelsea. Do we really need to talk about them?
Well, we do need to talk about them. We don't need to talk about how poor they were, but we do need to talk about them from the FPL point of view, because obviously there's a lot of Hazard owners out there. There's a lot of people like me that still have Alonso currently.
Get in the live chat, guys. If you're a Hazard owner, what are you doing with Hazard?
You can't keep him, can you?
Very difficult, isn't it? 4 blanks in a row now, isn't it? Very difficult.
If you are a Hazard owner and you're planning on keeping him, why? That would... What is the...
If I was a Hazard owner, the only thing that would make me keep him is that Chelsea are about to sign a striker.
Yeah, but...
Now, if they were about to sign a brilliant striker and I thought he was going to be a game changer for Hazard, I'd go with it. But I personally, and I could be very wrong about this, but I personally don't think Higuain is the answer. I don't think he's the answer to unlocking Hazard as an FPL asset. I honestly don't. And I'm starting to wonder whether Hazard is starting to look elsewhere in terms of where he might go in the summer. I don't know. But it's that game, if they'd have won that game, they're 9 points ahead of Arsenal. They're consolidating fourth spot. They're suddenly more worried about Man United than they are Arsenal. But they lose the game, and not only did they lose it, but they lost it in a really lethargic way. They didn't look up for it. Arsenal came flying out the box. Lacazette scored what can only be described as an excellent goal. First touch was sensational. Second touch was out of this world. And he smashed it past Kepa. Very, very good goal indeed. Chelsea just looked ineffective. I know Alonso hit the post again. So if you're an Alonso owner and you played him, that's just really unlucky. But listen, if I was a Hazard owner, I think I'd be selling. The other options are too good, right?
And that's the point, isn't it? Is that, Hazard... We all know that on his day, Hazard can be an amazing FPL asset. But at the moment, he is not a good FPL asset. In the same way that Alonso is not a good FPL asset at the moment. And my reason for holding Alonso is because I'm waiting for Mendy to come back. That was what I was doing to make that transfer. But with Hazard, there are so many firing midfield options, not least the City players. And before this game week, obviously, you had the Spurs midfield as well, the Liverpool midfield. There's just so many of them. Even, you can't forget about Pogba and the United midfield. So, for me, Hazard is too expensive to risk. It's too much money.
So here's a question from Karam, who's just super chatted us. Thank you, Karam, for the super chat and supporting the stream. He says, is there a reason to keep Haz even before Bournemouth? So we're sitting here saying, oh, yeah, get rid, he's too expensive. Bournemouth next. Fancy him against Bournemouth. It's at Bournemouth, by the way, on Wednesday, the 30th of January. So I'm not. I can't really sit here and say I fancy Bournemouth for that game. But like Michelle was saying in the live chat, Bournemouth could beat Chelsea. That they really could.
Is it at Bournemouth?
It's at Bournemouth, and Bournemouth's defence is pretty shocking, guys. We know that. But
Chelsea don't have anything going forward. God, so yeah. I know that they're probably going to get Higuain before that game.
And then the week after that, game week 25, home to Huddersfield, as Jim B is quite right saying. Can you sell Hazard before Bournemouth and Huddersfield?
Well, it depends on who you're going to get, doesn't it? So if you're going to bring in one of these players that's on top form, I don't know, Sterling, Sané, Pogba, Salah, then yes, you can. You absolutely can lose Hazard because he is not showing any signs that he's doing anything from
If you haven't got Salah yet, and Hazard's your only route in, you've got to go there, haven't you?
It's essential.
You've got to go there, I think so.
I mean, if you've got the other big names in your team, if you're playing a massive five in the middle, and so you've got Salah and Pogba and a Man City and Hazard, then maybe there's a little bit of justification for keeping him. Maybe.
Okay.
But at the moment, I don't see it.
And you guys, FPL Phenom, thank you for joining. He's saying, and so is Vinyl Richie, that actually Chelsea, there is a possibility of a double game week 25. Yeah, so again, at Ben Krellin's your man for that when he's talking about permutations and combinations.
Well, that's after Thursday, isn't it?
We will know, I think. We will know, what happens when that fixture gets rescheduled. If it is a double game week 25, then that changes the Hazard dynamic somewhat, I would suggest, given that we are on game week 23, aren't we? So we would be... just 2 game weeks away from a double game week 25 potentially. That changes the Hazard conversation quite significantly.
Well, let's
so
see
keep
what
an eye
happens
on that.
Thursday evening.
Let's hope
we don't have that as an issue because that means we'll be in the final.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. But Arsenal, for their part in that game, very, very good. I was heavily scouting Aubameyang, as you guys know. I didn't do the Kane to Aubameyang transfer. I also didn't do Kane to Aguero. I left Kane on the bench actually. I didn't want to. I didn't feel like either of those was
12.5 million.
Yeah,
on the
but
bench.
I didn't feel like either of them was worth a. All right, yeah, but I just didn't feel like either of those two, Aguero or Aubameyang, were worth a hit. And in the end, I think I was right to think that.
You're bang on, yeah.
However, Aubameyang did look pretty dangerous in that game. And here we go. It's FPL Family live stream Sunday night. Lee's going to sit here and talk again about Aubameyang's XG. Because again, pretty wasteful, right? He was 5th this game week for underachievers in XG with minus 0.56. So again... doing all the right things, getting the chances, but missing them, not taking the chances. And again, I know what you're going to say.
I'm not saying anything anymore.
You're big on the eye test, saying, well, he's missing those chances, so he's a no good. And I'm saying, well, he's at least getting those chances, so there's going to be something coming in for him. The fixtures for Arsenal coming up, with the exception of Man City away, which is coming up in game week 25, the fixtures look sublime, starting with Cardiff at home next week in game week 24. Then it's that City game. Then it's Huddersfield, Southampton, Bournemouth. And of course, in that game week 27, when City blank, probably, unless there's a miraculous comeback from Burton Albion, and either Chelsea or Spurs are going to miss out, then actually that game week 27, Southampton at home could be captainable as an Aubameyang owner. So I must admit, guys, despite Aubameyang not getting anything in that game at the weekend there against Chelsea, I still fancy him as my Kane transfer for next game week. I still fancy him at home to Cardiff in the next game week. So I think that is the way I'm leaning. Your thoughts on the Arsenal game in terms of Aubameyang? Is Lacazette an option, given that he scored?
I can't talk anymore about Aubameyang. I can't talk about him because he annoys me so much. Because he's not doing what he should be doing, and it's so infuriating. So I can't get him. And I don't care how good the fixture is in 27, unless he starts putting the ball in the net more regularly and hitting those expected goals more, like closer to them at least. How could you trust him with the captain's armband?
Okay, yeah, no, I'm with you.
With the rest of the Arsenal team, however, I do think that there is definite scope for Arsenal. Defensively, it's so hard, isn't it? A lot of people got
Socrates assist, Koscielny goal this game week. So if you did get one of those two, you're doing all right.
A lot of them have Kolo, don't they, rather than Koscielny.
I still don't think the Arsenal defence is worth investing in.
Bellerin.
And Bellerin is now screwed, isn't he? Because he's done his... It looks as if he's done some ligaments in his knee, stroke his quad muscle.
Didn't it, going off?
And there's a video on Twitter that's going around where it's like in super slow-mo. You can almost see like his tendons pinging. It's horrible.
Oh, God. Don't show me that.
It's bad. It's bad. So
that's made me feel really funny.
Sorry.
Why have you mentioned that?
Sorry. No, I shouldn't have even said it.
Gosh.
So, don't go there with Bellerin. It looks like he's out for quite a bit. And therefore the Arsenal defence is probably best avoided. The only other piece of admin to do on that game, if you like, is that actually Ramsey, I thought, was a...
Why are they selling him?
Well, as you guys on Twitter quite rightly pointed out, the Arsenal fans are not even selling him. He's actually just leaving. Do you know what I mean? Because it's poor mismanagement behind the scenes by letting him go. You know, he wants some money like Ozil money because they set the bar so high with Ozil and they're not prepared to give him Ozil money. So... here we are with, he's going to be going on a free somewhere, which is just blows my mind because he played so well in that game against Chelsea. Completely changed the dynamic, and Emery brought Torreira back in, who was a player we both like, as we know. And with those two in there, suddenly the guys up front start to flourish. So it's not rocket science.
It's tough with so obviously I've got Torreira, and it's very tough with him because for the last couple of weeks I've been looking at ways to manage him out of my team because he hadn't been playing for a couple of weeks, and I was like, do you know what? I bought him in as a cheap fifth, and he did the business for me, didn't he? The week I got him, so do you know what? If he does nothing else the rest of the season, that's absolutely fine.
Right. Yeah.
I'll ship him out. But actually, now he's back, and he seems to be back in favour again, and is playing well in that midfield. And I keep looking at him, thinking, there's assist potential from you. And the fixtures are really good. So part of me is now thinking, well, and this can segue us into talking about West Ham next, do I actually keep Torreira and lose Felipe Anderson instead?
Potentially.
Which is where I am currently in my thoughts.
Potentially. All right, well, let's have a quick pause there. We've got plenty more to talk about. We're already on 50 minutes, coming up to 50 minutes. 380 people in, guys. 380. So, guys, thank you for joining. Hit that like button if you like what we're doing. And if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got to have a quick shout out to our Patreons. We've had a few more Patreons over the last couple of days. Charlie FC, Radu, and Ian Barrett. And sorry, Radu, I should attempt that, shouldn't I? Simbatanu. Let's go with that. I think that's right.
I don't think that's too badly pronounced.
Thank you. I think I'm right by saying that's Radu. And if I'm not, then I apologise profusely. But Charlie FC, Radu, and Ian Barrett, new Patreons for FPL Family over the last 2 days. So, guys, thank you very much for joining. If you're new to what we do on Patreon, go and check out patreon.com/FPL Family. The link is in the description below. Check it out. We've got a Manager of the Month coming up in February. So, game week 25. So, what's that? Game week after next. Coming up pretty quick. First game week in February, game week 25, all the way through to game week 28, which is the last one in February. We'll be running a mini league for just our patrons, and the league code is in a locked Patreon post
I still haven't joined
on Patreon. And if you're a patron, then obviously you can unlock that, get the league code, and get into that league. We won't be putting it on Twitter, on YouTube, anywhere else. Of course, it will just be on Patreon exclusively for our patrons. If you want to take part in that league, then you can absolutely do that. And the winner will get a Premier League shirt of your choice. And as I said before on these live streams, if I can get it, you can have it. So whichever one you want, we can get that. If it's the Huddersfield third kit, if I can get it, then we can do it.
We can get it in the club shops,
we can get it. I'm sure we can get it. So that's our Patreon, guys. It's a relatively new thing, guys, but patreon.com/FPL Family. So not only will you get into the Manager of the Month thing, but you also get our weekly podcast, our Ohana podcast that we're doing on a Friday. And you'll also be supporting what we do here at FPL Family. So to Charlie, to Radu, to Ian, and to all of our patrons who are building that nice little community over there on Patreon, thank you for your support as ever, and we look forward to talking to you going forward. So there we go. That's a quick Patreon update. Where do we... let's get my window sorted out again. Where do we go next? We've got to go through the rest of these games pretty quickly. Let's go through Fulham 1, Spurs 2 then. Thoughts on the game? We've just watched it. Try and not be as emotional as you were a couple of hours ago, and give us your thoughts on the game.
It was horrendous to watch. I thought Fulham were really unlucky not to get something out of the game. I thought we were really lucky to nick it at the end. I think Llorente is the worst striker I've ever seen in my life.
Spurs were lacklustre in the first half, weren't they? What did you put that down to?
Well, I think it's two things, and I think so. You were saying that there's a real panic about Spurs, and you were right in what you were saying. And I think, for me, I always think that when Kane plays, there's a calmness about the side, because they know that if the ball goes up to him, he'll hold it and he'll protect. He's not just the goal-scoring guy at the top. He is much, much more than that. He holds the ball and he dictates the play. And without him, and with Llorente, I mean, you saw today how many passes. Llorente, there was an amazing one. I think it was from Toby. And he looked up. Llorente did a sort of, as if he was going to go in a run that Kane would do. And it was a beautiful ball. And Llorente just stopped. And it's like, what are you doing? You can't... That is not what... And I know what you were saying last week about, Llorente is a replacement like for like, but he is not. He might be a striker, an out-and-out striker, but I would far rather, and I know he's potentially injured now, but for me, and Poch did talk about it, play Dele in a false nine. That would be better, because at least he's got the same pace and just...
Do you think that the miss? I mean, and I know what you're saying about Kane, and I know he's not the captain. Lloris is the captain, but I think Kane is almost like the captain at the other end of the pitch, isn't he? He's the one that provides that calmness. And I thought Spurs played with a lot of panic in that first half, guys. I thought there was too much panic about the play. They didn't control it. And I think that was as much down to Kane's absence as it was somebody in the midfield. I think Sissoko has played very, very well in the last few game weeks. And they missed him big time. And even Dembele, who I know he's got, the world's dodgiest knee and he's now been sold, etc., etc. But even he, I think, would have got that game by the scruff of the neck and just provided that bit of calm in the middle. From an FPL perspective, though, clearly you're not endorsing Llorente any minute now. Ali, it's now very difficult to say that he's a good option, because we expect him to be out for a few more game weeks. So given Spurs' fixtures continue to look pretty good, who, from an FPL perspective, do we want to get on? I mean... Okay, so I think... very, very few options there, right?
I think there's a couple of things to say. I think you're right with what you say about Sissoko. However, Eric Dyer... I wanted to call him Derek then. That would have been...
Derek Ayer.
Eric Dyer is back. And
not an FPL asset, though.
No, but I think what that will mean is that we've now got somebody that's going to play in that bit more Sissoko-esque role. So it should mean that forward motions are better. Now, Dele is the obvious pick if he's fit, and we have to just wait on that and see what happens. We've got 10 days before the next Premier League game, so if it's not a torn, if it's just a little, he might...
What about Eriksen? Eriksen was running the game again. He's very creative as usual.
Yeah, Eriksen and Lamella for me. I watched the game today, and I know
he had a bad game, Lamella.
Yeah, but you always think he has a bad game.
He had a bad game. My God.
Yeah, but don't you think that's more to do with the fact that he's got to play alongside that big lump?
The one I'm most interested in actually didn't play today. If I was going to have a look at anybody, I'd like to look at Lucas Moura. I'd be interested to see what happens to Moura. If he plays in the FA Cup, I'll be scouting him. because I think he's got the potential to play up top.
Will,
I get the feeling that he'd quite happily dump Llorente and put Mora up there.
Off a cliff.
I must admit, I'm not with you on the Lamela thing. He was awful, and I don't like him as a player. I know he has some games where he plays all right, and he comes out and he does pretty well. But over the course of his Spurs career, I can think of maybe 4 or 5 games where I thought he's good. Listen, I know you disagree, but I think he's rubbish. The player that I'm looking at is Mora, for sure. However, the way that Spurs team are decimated by injuries right now, not just in the middle of the park, but up top, I'm finding it hard to invest in them at all right now. I mean, you squeaked past a pretty bad Fulham side, to be honest. Defensively, he looked okay. But I'm not sure I would want to invest heavily in a 6.0 defender, because a lot of the Spurs defenders are expensive.
Yes.
So aside from Moura, and even then I'm just scouting, not bringing him in straight away. I think I'm steering clear of Spurs for now. I have to say
it's tough, isn't it, with Spurs, because the fixtures are good, but there isn't. If Dele is injured, there's no longer an obvious pick. I think Moura. Poch said he was 90% fit. In terms of today, it was 90% when he spoke on, was it Friday's press conference. They were hoping he might make it, but he obviously didn't. Part of me wonders whether that is because we are desperately going to need him on Thursday night. We will need him. And a lot of Spurs fans, there's a lot of kind of debate about what happens on Thursday and what kind of team we play, because we are at the bare bones at the moment. But you cannot, in my opinion, not play your best team in a semi-final. So if Mora's got any chance of being fit, I think you will play him on Thursday night. Okay. And that will be a good opportunity for us as FPL owners to watch him and see where he's going to play him and how he's going to play him and how that's going to work in terms of... Because he's a very different player to Kane. So how he's played... The good thing about him is he's got a lot of movement about him, so he will make those runs, which Llorente's just never going to do.
All right. And very, very quickly, because we've got to move on, we're coming up to the hour mark. A few of the guys are saying, Sterling, Sammy, are you going to get a look in this kid?
Yeah, I think he should. He's really decent. He's got real potential about him. I was, as Lee will just testify, very annoyed that he played Llorente over Sterling, because Sterling has got... could be the next Harry Kane. He's
really?
So give the kid a chance.
Yikes.
Why is he not getting a chance? I expect to see him in the FA Cup.
Interesting. Sure. All right. I know very little about him actually, but
he's
all right,
good.
well, let's see him.
Let's see
if he's there. Let's see what you guys are saying. Frank Nataro is saying Spurs look shaky up front and got to wait another 10 days, so we've got plenty of time to assess what Spurs are going to do in their cup games. Ericsson, the way to go. Mohammed Hassan is saying, yeah, potentially, but then that's a lot of money to invest in someone who's kind of carrying the old team by himself, frankly, at the minute. More worth a look if fit, Steve Wynyard is saying. I think you're spot on with that. Yeah. Lamela is Spurs' version of Gabbiadini. He was saying, absolutely brilliant.
I literally love Lamela. I'm going to get him in one week.
Very, very good. Lamela is not very good. Otto Mild is saying Spurs won thanks to Tim Ream. Josh96 is saying.
You said that, didn't you?
Well, I thought at first when Winks got the other side of the defender for the goal, I thought, oh, there we go, Tim Ream, absolutely done. But it wasn't actually Brian. It was actually the fullback that got done by Harry Winks. But nevertheless...
You did blame Tim Ream.
Nevertheless, I'm going to say it was Tim Ream's fault. From Fulham perspective, I don't think there's too much to report other than... Mitrovic could easily have got sent off for a bit of an altercation with Davinson Sanchez, but less said about that, the better. The only one that kind of surprised me a little bit was Ryan Babel, actually. I think Ryan Babel actually played reasonably well.
Does he never change his hair?
Despite the shocking red haircut, he actually was getting on the end of a few things. Given it's his first game he's been in the country, maybe a couple of minutes, didn't look too bad, actually. So maybe one just to scout, maybe one to keep on your watch list. The other game from today earlier was Huddersfield 0, Man City 3. Odd game again. I thought at half time I was gonna get away with having no Man City assets in my team. Couldn't be more wrong there. The first goal was a bit of a fluke. It's gone down as a Danilo goal and a Walker assist in the end. I'm not entirely sure that Danilo's shot was going on target, so I'm not sure how it's not a Schindler own goal there. But nevertheless, not many people have got Danilo and Walker anyway, so I wasn't too concerned about that. So at half time, I was sort of sitting there thinking, well, that was a very uncomfortable watch.
Yeah.
Having no Man City players. That was the first thing to say, is watching that game was incredibly uncomfortable with no Man City. Particularly when Sterling got fouled in the first half for what was an absolute stonewall penalty. So it should have been a Sterling assist and presumably an Aguero goal. So that was a bit uncomfortable to watch. And then you could see that Pep on the touchline in the first half, just before half time, was seething. You could tell he was seething. 1-0 up, but you could see he was seething. And actually, in my view, I thought he was going to go in there and give him a roast, and he clearly did. They came out, first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, put the game to bed, and it was job done. But all your favourites got some points, and in particular, Sané again, 12 points for him. And FPL Tips, thank you for the Super Chat tips. He's saying Sané still a great option, even though Mendy's returning. What's your thoughts?
In all honesty, I don't know. And I've been in my head tussling with this for a few weeks now. Since the Mendy's back in training thing came back, when they played together before the injury, it wasn't great for Sané. And that worries me in terms of getting on Sané. Now, I kind of feel like, well, if I was going to do the Sané thing, I probably should have done it a couple of weeks back. Yeah. So for me, it's trying to work out how to do Sterling, I think, rather than Sané.
Sterling, yeah. But it's a long way up there, though. It's 11 and a bit. I know.
Yeah. But it's, I feel like I want to wait and see what happens when Mendy is back to Sané. Because I'd actually really like Mendy. Yeah, I'm not sure tips. I'm not that keen on Sané when Mendy's on the pitch.
So FPL Chancellor, so Dan is saying Sané's a great short-term pick, but Sterling is a better long-term pick, he reckons. Hash V23 is saying he doesn't think that Pep trusts Mendy. It's interesting that, isn't it? There's certainly no love lost between the two. I know Pep's not a big fan of his sharking about on social media and all that sort of stuff, is he? What I will say about the City fixtures, and let's face it, that's a bit of a moot point sometimes because City are pretty fixture-proof. If they've got to go away at Newcastle, which looks like a nice fixture for them, then it's 2 home games against Arsenal and Chelsea, which as a Liverpool fan, I'm kind of hoping they can drop some points between those 2 fixtures somewhere. And then game week 27, as we know, is the blank, barring football's greatest comeback from Burton Albion. So over the next 4, they've got, Newcastle, then Arsenal, Chelsea, blank. Should we be investing in City given the difficulty of those fixtures? I mean, if you were going to get Sané, the time to do it was maybe last week or a week ago, wasn't it? And now we're worried about fixtures and rotation with him.
Yeah.
Or are we sitting here, when we said that about Son over and over, he's going to the Asian Games, not going to get him, he's going away.
But the difference with
we missed out on all those points.
But I think the difference with Son is that we were saying that from about 6 weeks out, whereas we're saying this for potentially, 1 week away from the Arsenal-Chelsea games and... 2-3 weeks away from a guaranteed blank. Yeah. So do I want Sané or any City for the Arsenal game and the Chelsea game? Well, look, it's City. They can score in any game. The Arsenal defence and the Chelsea defence do not look very great.
Arsenal at home, you'd take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they don't look like they're going to keep clean sheets, nor do Chelsea. So there's no reason why Sané and Sterling can't score goals in that game. There's no reason why Aguero can't. My issue is a little bit more to do with that blank game week. I don't know how I feel about that.
And as the guys are saying in the live chat, absolutely spot on. Again, we need to look out for this game week 25. Is it going to be a double for them? If it is, again, it totally changes the dynamic, right? Totally changes the dynamic.
Is the City one going to go in there? I don't know.
Well, the guys are saying it's a possibility, right? It's a possibility.
Yeah, I think there's a few game weeks that the City one could fall into because doesn't it depend upon progression in Champions League and various other things as well?
There are a lot of dependencies. You're absolutely right. There are a lot of dependencies on that. A quick shout out to Edison just because he's got a lot of...
No. Move on. What's the next game to talk about? Watford. Let's talk about Watford.
Edison.
Don't mention that man's name to me. He is the biggest... most irritating man I've ever met. In fact, I dislike him more than I dislike Llorente.
Wow.
That's all there is to say. Let's move on.
There's a lot of anger in your voice, I can tell.
What have we got left to talk about?
We've got loads to talk about. Very, very, very quickly then. United 2, Brighton 1. The usual suspects are scoring again. Pogba, get him in if you haven't got him. Rashford, get him in if you haven't got him. That's all I want to say about that game. That's all I want to say.
And I'm sorry, Lee, but don't keep Martial any longer.
Yeah, he seems to be being hauled off on between 65 and 70 minutes every game, which is really, really annoying.
And it's not because he's a bad player or playing badly. He's just not an FPL asset. Stick with Pogba, stick with Rashford, and move Martial on.
Do you know what Martial was getting? And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, the same as my Richarlison pick. Getting into nice positions. He got a couple of blocked and he
Move
looked
him
all
on.
right. Yeah, I know.
Move him on.
But listen, they play. So United are at home to where are we? Burnley next. At home to Burnley. I can't move him on before Burnley.
Of course you can. You've got Rashford and Pogba. Move him on.
But they're not differentials. I don't know.
Yeah,
Jason Stilling is saying Martial played well again. You're absolutely right. Ishan is saying, please tell me what to do with Martial. I've got Pogs and Rash. Well, absolutely. Leo is saying Martial isn't a bad option. Yeah, I do agree with you, but flipping heck, Leo, I would love some FPL points from him. I tell you, it's nice that he gets these nice performances.
Same as Felipe Anderson, right? You know, we talked for weeks, and we have for weeks about how good Felipe Anderson has looked. Martial is exactly the same, but if they're not getting you FPL points for weeks and weeks on end, it doesn't matter how good they're playing.
Yeah.
You've got to go to somebody that is going to get you fantasy points.
All right, well, I think as a few of you guys are saying, Pogba is an absolute must-have. If you haven't got him, expect to have a bit of a hit in OR. He is absolutely on fire. Bournemouth 2, West Ham 0. Wilson and King doing the business. Brooks with an assist. Not sure how Fraser didn't get that assist.
No, I'm not sure either.
I know the ball changed direction or some nonsense according to the rules, but listen, that for me is a Fraser assist that I was a little bit bitter about. Let's have a look at the Bournemouth fixtures going forward. I think I'm going to be sticking on Fraser despite the fixtures looking horrendous. Chelsea, Cardiff, Liverpool, Wolves and Arsenal. So very Chelsea, up and down.
They can score against Chelsea, they'll score against Cardiff, and score against Wolves, and they can score against Arsenal. It's just Liverpool.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
And Ayo, Steve Cook got a back.
Steve Cook gets a bonus point. Goodness me. Next thing you'd be telling me Tim Ream's essential.
I'm never going to tell you that.
Bournemouth 2, West Ham 0. I wonder, and I just said this last time, I wonder whether as West Ham as a club, you know, when your best player says, I've been offered a bit of money over here, I'm going.
But he's not going now, is he, apparently?
He's gone. Even if he doesn't physically go, he's mentally gone. Do you know what I mean? Someone will come in for him now. He's as good as gone on Arnautovic. And the problem with that as a club is that your best player walks out the door just because there's more money on the table. That has an impact on the club. I'm sorry, but it does. It does. Newcastle 3, Cardiff 0. Apart from Shah now being essential, there's nothing I want to say about that game. Watford 0, Burnley 0. Not a lot to say in that game either, other than all hail King Foster. 8 points for me this game week. Got
and
a back and a few saves. Holebas doing
bonus
very well
point. Thank you for that jammy pick, Colin. Oh, he wasn't my jammy pick, but he was my. What did I shout him out for? A replacement for somebody.
No idea. Was it Alonso replacement or something?
Or
Dini replacement?
It was Alonso replacement.
Ashley Barnes, having shouted him out a few weeks ago, he's done absolutely naff all. Want to talk about him at all?
I still don't think he's a bad pick.
Well, listen, here we go. XG underachievers, top for XG underachievers. Ashley Barnes this game we've got minus at 0.85. So potentially a bit unlucky not to get in the points against Watford. Maybe down to Mr. Ben Foster. Who knows?
Maybe.
So there we go. There's your 42 seconds on Watford. Let's have a look at the teams for this game week. And I think the overall ranks are updated. I'm going to do a quick refresh of my team. Here it is. I'm pretty sure my game week rank took a bit of a hit today because of having no players playing. 71, guys. 71 for me this game week, which I'm pretty happy with. Pretty happy with that. That's reasonably solid, I think. Foster, as I said before, very, very good. Happy to have him. Salah, captain, doing the business. Pogba and Rashford, very, very good. Robbo and Jimenez getting assists. So I feel it's like a solid game week, but I feel like all of my template picks have done well, with potentially the exception of Foster. That's why I was sitting there with 10 minutes to go in that game, praying for a Watford clean sheet, which I feel like
every week.
I feel like I sit there every week on Gillette Soccer Saturday waiting for a Watford clean sheet. It's absolutely crazy. So I feel like the team's done well, but I feel like all my template picks have done well. So my Richarlisons, my Frasers, and my Martials, which are my differentials or my, let's say, lesser picked players, not doing the business. So I don't feel like I'm really gathering a lot of pace there. But 71 it's hard to be downhearted with that, right? 71 I think is still reasonably solid. Game week rank of 741, overall rank now at 131. So listen, guys, it's not as bad as it was a few weeks ago. It's quite
a long way up, isn't it, this week?
I think it's a rank rise of about 20 or 25k. So again, another chunk out the overall rank. Game week 19, still living long in the memory, and I will never shut up about that game week where I absolutely plummeted, guys, down the overall ranks. But the recovery is on. It's on. It's there and it's happening. It ain't happening very fast, but it's happening. So up to 131 overall rank. Pretty happy. Reasonably happy with that game week. Not over the moon, but reasonably happy.
The team looks good for the week after anyway, so...
Team looks all right. Yes, team looks all right. I'm looking at what I might do, and it's Kane to Aubameyang. Looks like the obvious thing to do with that game against Cardiff. Let's have a look at where you are. So I want to look in this league, and I want to have a look at your team here. 70 to beat me by a point. That's jammy, isn't it? That's jammy. Beat me by a point.
From Luis, wasn't it?
One save point from Luis from beating me. 72 points. Talk us through your game week and talk us through how your overall rank evolved throughout the game week. Because actually on Saturday afternoon, you were sitting at something crazy overall rank.
Yeah, at one point I was at like 3k, but that's live, isn't it? And it changes.
Yeah.
I think at the end of yesterday I was sitting at 5. And I was sitting quite nice. And actually, had Llorente not scored an own goal, I would probably have stuck around the 5.5 mark.
Right.
Maybe pushing 6.
Because the Lloris saves and the 6. Yeah.
So I would have been, because at the end of the City game I was at 6. So it's a little bit frustrating. But it is what it is.
So game week rank of 635k, not bad at all. 72 points, as we said. Overall rank 7.2k, very good indeed.
It's still a couple of what was I on before? 7.5.
It's a green arrow, right?
Yeah, it's 300.
300 places. There's a tiny green arrow, but you take that. Are you through in the cup? I think you are. This team has got 59, so you're through again to what round is that? It's got to be like round 5 or 6, isn't it? Something like that.
I don't know.
Who knows? You're doing very well. Look at this.
I don't know. It's uncharted territory. Look at
1,
that.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Round
Through
8.
to round 8 of the cup. Goodness me.
I mean,
What do you win? What do you win? Let's have a look.
I might be in the final soon.
Could be.
Imagine if I was in the final of the Cup League.
Who knows? You're doing very, very well, my dear.
I tell you what, if I am and I win it, I'll take you on the hospitality that I will win.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. As long as we don't have to go to White Hart Lane.
We'll go to see Watford and you can watch them foster.
Not going to bloody Watford. Sorry, Joe. We're not going to Watford.
We are going to see Watford anyway.
We are, but
in
at
fact,
Anfield.
I'm going to see them twice in a couple of weeks. Because I'm going on Wednesday
me.
to see Watford. And I'm going to see Spurs, but they're playing Watford.
Goodness
and then
me.
I've got to sit through Watford again.
Well, there we go. We're loving the Hornets right now. Talk us through some potentially very early thoughts on what you might do with that team for game week 24, if you've had any.
So I have 2 transfers because I only made 1 last week.
Very good.
Early thoughts were we're keeping an eye on what happens with Alonso. Felipe Anderson is my kind of... I think I'm going to lose Felipe Anderson this week. He's really annoyed me the last few game weeks. I keep looking at him thinking, that's a great fixture. He should score points. Nothing.
Yeah.
But the others I'm fairly content with. Okay. So, yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, let's see how you guys are getting on in the live chat. Let's have a look. Ishan is saying 76 points. Very, very good. Rank was 9.4k, now 6.8k. Excellent. Go green team, he says. Excellent stuff. Rushil is saying, Sam, your FPL skills have given me an inferiority complex. Rushil, welcome to my world. How do you think I feel, mate? How do you think I feel?
Don't be daft.
Let's see. John Chappell. Dino is a nightmare from an ex-owner. Find an extra 0.8 and get David Luiz. Yes. Yeah, quite possibly. Leo is saying we're tied on points, Sam, overall. You and Leo tied on points. Look at that.
The battle is on, Leo.
Frank Notaro, 81 score, up to 28k. Very, very good indeed. Paul Wickett, up to 160 in the world.
Yeah, he's doing amazing.
Paul, absolutely fantastic.
I didn't think he was coming tonight. He's a Facebooker.
Oh, there we go. Oh, he's one of 2 or 3, is he? Paul loves a bit of Facebook.
That's a bit of Facebook.
Very good.
I didn't think he was coming tonight. He sent his apologies.
There we go.
Nice to have you in.
Very good. Welcome,
Australia.
Paul. Welcome. Very good.
Good morning.
Very good. Good morning. Absolutely. Let's have a look at the live stream Regulars League. Ryan's still flying the flag. Very good week for Ryan. 74. Paul, there he is. 87, Paul. Very good indeed, my friend. Very good. Let's have a look at Paul's team. 163 in the world. Oh, my God.
Are the leagues up to date?
87 points. Don't know. Looks like they're currently being recalculated, but looks like the game week scores and everyone's scores are there, right? So it's Ryan Manahar, who I think is a new entry. I haven't seen Manahar up there before. So Manahar, welcome to the league. Overall rank 104 in the world. Absolutely sensational stuff. Then it's Paul, Peter, Mark, Richard, Chris, Liam, Shuvik, Luke, all of you guys that we're quite used to seeing up there. We're quite used to seeing you guys up there. Very, very good. And there you are, Sam, in 11th. Look at that, in 11th. Sensational stuff. Amongst the elite. I'll say it again. The elite. Brilliant stuff.
Where, Wooden Spoon?
Wooden Spoon. Should we wait for the leagues to update?
Well, we just need a number, don't we?
We can have a look at the points. All right, let's have a look. A lot of good scores. Again, a lot of good scores in here again, guys. There's a lot of 60s, a lot of 70s. There's a few 80s. There's a 59 there from Ketton, which struggle to see that as a bad game week. 59. That's a very, very good score.
What was the same with Byrie last week, wasn't it? It was like 2 points below average, and it was probably just being touched.
There's a 58 there for Usman. There's a 58. 54 for Tim. Let's see if anybody can beat 54.
Tim Ream?
Not Tim Ream. No, not Tim Ream. Team Hebes.
I've already said Tim. You've had a wooden spoon.
He's had a spoon. Can he have another one? Not sure.
Tim.
Not sure. Marsan 54. I'm sure Marsan's had
a wooden spoon as well.
This is a theme, guys. So I think 54. I think that's the score. What was Tim on? Remind me. What did I say?
55.
Where was he? Tim. I've lost him, but I think it's 54. I think it's Marsan again. I don't know if we can give it to Marsan. We need to give it to somebody else. Rendra with 59 or Jamie Young with 57.
He's had one.
Jamie's had one? Guys, come on. Guys, tell you what, guys, we're going to look through the league. We're going to have a look at
who's lowest that hasn't had a spoon.
Who's lowest that's not had a spoon? Because we're not double spooning. We're not going there. I can't have two wooden spoons.
I think Jamie might have had. I think that might be his third time in the box.
Oh, he's already had two, has he? They can't set these new rules. Then they can't set these new rules.
No, I don't know. I can't remember if I sent the second one or if he just had one spoon, but he's come to the bottom twice.
Aaron Chen, Tim Ream with a wooden spoon would really make my week. He says, yeah, very good.
I don't know if I can get his address. Do you reckon I could get his address and send it?
Tim Ream.
Yeah.
Wooden spoon. Thanks. Love FPL Family. Well, there we go, guys. There we go. That is it for tonight, guys. Some cracking scores. Really, really good scores. Some 60s, 70s, some 80s, a few 90s knocking about. Absolutely fantastic. There is our Twitter. In case you're not following us already, we are at FPL Family on Twitter. We're also at the same handle at FPL Family on Instagram. Go check out the Patreon, as we mentioned halfway through the stream. We've got a nice little community building up over there too. If you want to take part in our February Manager of the Month, the league code is live on Patreon for all of our patrons. And of course, you get access to our special Patreon exclusive Ohana podcast that comes out every Friday, where either you or I or both of us give a little bit of insight into what we're talking about in terms of our teams for the week. Oh my goodness me, the poll. Did I even announce the polls at the beginning?
No, you didn't tell me what.
I don't even think I talked about the polls.
I don't even know.
The guys are saying polls. We didn't even talk about the polls.
Did you even set any polls?
Yeah.
Well, we better do the polls then.
We better flip and do the polls. Guys, you're absolutely right. So this is...
Took my glasses off and everything. I better put them back on.
There we go. I thought we were finished. But guys, you're right. Polls.
Goodness me, even I forgot about the polls.
If you haven't looked at the polls, guys, you've got, 20 seconds to do it now. Go check out the little white eye in the top right-hand corner. Didn't even talk about it at the beginning. Absolutely shocking. And I even asked the question. I've got it out there in a tweet today. So thank you to everybody that responded to the tweet with a question for the polls. The first question was...
Well, we need to go to the polls and answer them.
We do, but I'm going to say who the questions come from first, because there was a lot of people tweeting in with the same sort of questions. So Luke Walkinshaw at LX Designs, I mentioned before, he's asking about Mendy. Do we get him in? Do we wait and see, or do we not get him in? I think he's back on the training pitch, Mendy, so it looks like he could be back for game week 24. So Luke wants to know whether we should get Mendy in or not. GDan17 is saying, who's the best option between 6 and 7.5 million in that really awkward midfield price range? So who's the best midfielder to have there?
I can tell you it's not.
Is it Lamella, Richarlison, Anderson, Fraser, or Siggy? I don't think Fraser's in that, is he? Fraser's less than 6, isn't he? But anyway, that's what GDan17 wanted to know. And those are his picks, and hopefully I've done those in the poll correctly. Wouldn't be surprised if I haven't. And then Elite FPL, as well as John Chappell, both ask, Jota, is he the real deal or just a bandwagon? Should we be getting him in, or should we be waiting and seeing, or should we be going for him straight away? So those are the questions, guys. Get into the little eye, top right-hand corner. I feel like I'm at the beginning of the stream. Get into the little eye, top right-hand corner, and answer those questions. You've got 10 seconds, and then we are going to answer them, or you, Sam from FPL Family, are going to answer these. I'm glad to hear you
using my full name.
Questions. Right. Mendy in. Yes, right now. Wait and see, or no?
Wait and see.
Wait and see.
Doing.
75% say wait and see, which I think is a valid strategy. 21% say no, and only 2 say yes. The best 6 million to 7.5 million midfielder, even though Fraser isn't in that bracket. Lamella, Richarlison, Felipe Anderson, Fraser, or Siggy. And you can't say Lamella?
Siggy.
50% 51% are saying Fraser.
The only reason I'm not saying Fraser is because he's actually not.
Because he's not in that bracket.
He's not in that bracket.
But that was the question that was asked by GDave17, whatever his name was. There we go. So Fraser, 51%. Siggy, 19%. Anderson, 14%. Richarlison, 11%. Only 3% going Lamella, with 3% of you gone absolutely bonkers. Diogo Jota in, yes or no, or wait?
No.
No for Diogo Jota. 46% are saying wait. 18% are saying yes. Basically, get him in. Get him in on the back of that hat trick. 46% say wait. 34% say no. So most of you are saying.
Oh, Tips is saying Fraser is 6.1 now, so he is in that.
There
bracket.
he is. There he is. He is in the bracket.
It wasn't when I bought him.
How the mighty rise, the mighty Scottish Messi. How
Indeed.
He rises. That's how long I've had him.
I think I've had him since he was about 6.
I think if I sold him, I wouldn't get 6. I'd get like 5.8 or something.
Yeah, because I think I've had him since he was about 5.5 or something.
Had him for flipping ages. So there we go, guys. Those were the very, very last minute polls. Thank you for taking part in those right at the death, and thank you for pointing out that I missed it.
So we won't be here on Thursday.
We won't be here on Thursday because we've got FA Cup, haven't we? FA Cup next weekend. So I guess what we could do is a live stream at this time next week.
We'll have to, because I'm not around for a midweek live stream because I'm at Spurs.
Are you going to the Spurs? Who are Spurs playing?
Watford.
Spurs Watford at Wembley. You're going to next week Wednesday. Okay, very good.
We can't do like we did last time. There was a live midweek game. We did a live, didn't we?
I could do a live.
While Liverpool are on the TV, you're going to do a live.
Yeah, I might want to watch the game.
Yeah,
might want to watch the game. We're playing Leicester.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably want to watch the game.
So I think we'll do a Sunday night preview video for the midweek game week.
This time next week, a Game Week 24 preview video.
Correct.
Because it's midweek games.
Yes.
And actually that week, so after those games, on transfer deadline day, guys, we're going to be in the studio, aren't we? We're going to be back seeing Jules and James on that Thursday on transfer deadline day. So stuff that we talk about in the FPL show could be instantly out of date because Higuain comes in or Wilson goes to Chelsea or something.
And shall we wear yellow?
I don't think we can do that because isn't that a Sky Sports thing?
Will anyone know?
Yeah, it's a Sky Sport. You can't really say Sky
Should we
Sports.
have our own thing then?
No, it's a totally different game, Sam.
No, but we could have our own colour.
I don't think we can go to the people that organise the official FPL game and start promoting Sky Sports.
What I'm saying is we can have our own colour that we would wear.
What colour should we wear?
You know, like that's his thing that he wears yellow. I mean, we could have like our own thing, like wear orange or something.
Rock up in like a pink tie or something.
I don't know. Think about.
I don't know.
I don't know. We're quite a bit red, aren't we? In our thing, maybe we should wear red.
All right. Well, listen, I'll leave it to you,
we
dear.
We could put it out there
quite a
to the
dangerous
community.
Thing. I think it's quite a dangerous thing to leave that to you. But listen, thank you guys for joining. We will be back this time next week with our preview video for Game Week 24. So a load of FA Cup action will have taken part. And we will look forward to the fixtures that are going to be happening on that. Are they all Wednesday or some Tuesday?
No, there's some on Tuesday. In fact, I think the majority are on Tuesday. And then
bit of Tuesday, bit of Wednesday.
Or something.
Bit of Tuesday, bit of Wednesday. Yeah. By then, there'll be loads of transfers probably happening as well. So there'll be plenty to talk about this time next week with our Game Week 24 preview. And then the following Thursday will be on the FPL show, so you get to see more of the FPL Family on the official FPL app. Until then, at FPL Family on Twitter and FPL Family on Instagram and Facebook. Leave us a like before you go. Hit that subscribe button and the little notify bell if you're new around here so that you know when we're live and we don't miss out. Until next Sunday, guys, well done this game week. Some fantastic scores. We'll see you in a week's time. Cheers.
Take care, everyone. Bye.